Gentleman from California, Mr. Swalwell, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome to our witnesses. I welcome this opportunity to highlight the brave heroes, the citizens of Boston, who ran into the blast zone to help the victims affected by the blast, but also to highlight the brave men and women of law enforcement and the emergency responders who hunted, captured, and killed the 2 individuals responsible for this. Serving on this committee for me is also special because I was a former prosecutor, but also a congressional intern in Washington, D.C. when September 11th happened. And what happened in Boston reminded me that the threats facing our country are still very real. And while there is information to be learned from the intelligence community as far as what they knew before the blast went off, it's clear now that we face new emerging threats from lone, radicalized wolves who can use readily accessible materials that you can get off the internet to wreak havoc and do damage in mass groups. And that's what I think we are here to seek to protect against and talk about today. But there are a lot of answers to come from the community, but I want to talk about what happened once the blast went off and what our emergency responders did, and examine to what degree we can make sure that you and other agencies are more prepared. I also know that because of the sequester, Homeland Security funding could be threatened in the future. And we have talked a lot about the Urban Areas Security Initiative. I come from Alameda County, where I was a prosecutor, and it was the Alameda County Sheriff's Office that developed Urban Shield. And they've been doing that for a number of years under the leadership of Sheriff Greg Ahern, and I understand that former Assistant Sheriff Jim Baker actually went out to Boston back in December and led part of the efforts for Boston Urban Shield. So I was hoping you could tell me just a little bit about what lessons were learned in Boston from your Urban Shield program, and what would be threatened if you did not have that funding in the future.
Certainly. Thank you, Congressman. Sheriff Baker and the other individuals who developed Urban Shield did us an incredible service. We sent teams out to Alameda County twice, and after the second time, we talked about them moving the training to the East Coast so that we could incorporate people throughout New England, and that's exactly what happened. We've had 2 of these exercises now that have allowed us to really examine what we would do in the case of a mass casualty event like we saw in Boston, and we included everyone in this training. It wasn't it sort of centered around SWAT teams, but then they brought in hazardous materials teams. Kurt and his team were incredibly helpful in making this happen and bringing everybody into the fold on this whole exercise. One of the things that popped up in our first exercise was that our communications with the fire department was not sufficient, and so we were able to change our radio system to correct that, and after the blast happened, that was helpful to us. That interoperability made a difference in our ability to respond to the marathon.
And would reduced funding for that program threaten your ability to respond if an attack were to occur again?
Without a doubt, without question, if funds are cut to these programs, we're not going to know what we don't know. It's only when you exercise these events that you find out that you have a gap in your systems, and if you find that out after the incident occurs, lives are at stake.
And you mentioned that you were able to work with international law enforcement agencies. Were you able to work with forces from Israel and anti-terror departments from Israel?
Yes, the Israeli military and police services have been very helpful to us, sending people over to train us. As a matter of fact, the tactic that Sergeant Conley used in opening the bags up, the cut and tag tactic, was taught to us by the Israelis.
And again, Chair, having been here when September 11th happened, I remember how dark of a place Washington became, but I know under your leadership and also Senator Lieberman, under your leadership, we were able to invest in a department in Homeland Security, and I think what we saw after the bombs went off, the coordinated efforts among local, state, and federal law enforcement is what was envisioned as far as how we would respond to an attack. So I want to thank you, Senator, and also you, Chair, for your work in this area.
Thank the gentleman. Thank you. Gentleman's time has expired.